Hello, hello. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Raising Starseeds. I'm your co-host, Heidi Pop, along with Abby Lynn. She might be on this side. And our guest today really needs no introduction, but I'd like to try. We have global alchemist, global mythologist, intuitive medical astrologist, world-renowned speaker, world-renowned author, and a mother. Ladies and gentlemen, Laura Eisenhower.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me. Good to be here.
Thank you for being here. We're so excited to see where our chats go today. I'm very curious on your take of parenting and our little star seeds today and how we can protect them. And I know we have some crazy current events happening too. So just diving right in.
Yeah. And so much to process everything. It's a lot for everyone. I've been working with clients and just hearing just what they're going through with their younger children, just in whatever location they're living in. I mean, it's so much. And I have all these visions of wanting to really create just a way to generate funds for people going through a transition so that they can just pay that bill or pay off that car payment while they maybe exit the matrix or that career that's causing them or trying to push them to compromise themselves or their children in the school systems. Like, there's got to be a way that we can help them transition without getting caught in the survival or I have to comply or else I'm not going to be able to put food on the table. So that's a big concern as far as the people that I've been working with and what I'm envisioning, at least with this land I'm trying to get in Montana as a retreat center, a transition place for people to be able to come, take a breath and help them figure out what their next step is so that we can build community and not rely on the matrix. Because doctors and nurses and teachers and all those that don't want to do this or have their kids in these systems, there's got to be a way that we can support them and help to build community where we utilize these skills as a community without having to go through the matrix crap. We build our own structures, we build our own gardens, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So that to me is kind of what we need to do on a community level as parents, as citizens, even if we don't have kids. And for me, I mean, I'm really glad that my kids are 23 years old. I can't imagine having them any younger, especially when I was single parenting and I didn't know where the next meal was coming from, kept moving, living out of vehicles with this tyrannical bullshit, even though it's always been there, hiding under the surface. I'm glad they're as old as they are and they understand what's going on and they're acting as a rock and they're, helping to build these visions and dreams. And so as a team, we really want to support people that are challenged with having younger kids or the challenge of losing their careers and jobs because of what's going on.
Oh, yeah. That's beautiful. And to be honest, I never pictured that or thought of that. You're right. Especially out here in LA, it's just pull your kids out, just start over. But you need that transition. You need to just have someone support you so you can take your breath and figure out your next step. Because it's really just yanking. It's hard. It's scary.
Oh, yeah. And that survival chakra, fight. Yeah. You can't think straight. Your intuition isn't as accessible. And and I know that all too well, just with the kind of path I've had as a mother without, any real stability. And I'm glad I'm in a position now where I can, help more. But, it's hard to generate funds in this field, of course. I'm not losing the faith about that. It's just a matter of getting over the censorship and building new platforms where we don't get as effed with.
Yeah. Well, cosmicgaia.org, cosmicgaia.org. You got all your stuff on one.
Yeah. I just updated my website and it's pretty current with all that's going on and the event that we'll be doing, of course, in May.
Yes. So excited about that. Yeah. I almost feel like there needs to be a hub where it's okay, I'm newly awakened. Now what?
Right.
What do I do now? Because now, you get to this certain place where you realize I can't continue to exist within this because now you're outside of it, but I also can't go completely growing my own garden on a farm.
Right?
Yeah. So we need those B locations. And so I think it's brilliant that you're working on creating that.
It's very early in stages, but, it would take, quite a team, people to just help, with the mental and emotional trauma of it all. And just the processing of it all. And then, resources that, can help. I mean, I remember just, you know, when you show up in a new city or town and you don't know anybody. I mean, I've done that over and over again with young babies, twins, without, you know, any child support or any, you know, real money. And you have to kind of think on your toes and be really resourceful, but that's not always so easy. And, you know, through the grace of whatever higher power, you know, we made it, but like, it doesn't have to be that difficult. We can make it a lot easier for people and find a way to, help transition them. And I saw something really cool. And I don't know, like, I mean, I didn't explore it that much, but there's something called roommates.com where you can literally put in what your needs are. It might just be one bedroom. It might, like, you know, be specific requirements that you have, the type of person you want to live with. And they do this big search, and then all over the country, they'll show you, well, this could be the perfect roommate. Then you get on a phone conversation. And so those kind of ideas are really good. I don't know how well that's all gone, because there's always some kind of infiltration or BS sometimes, not all the time. But yeah, just there's multiple things that one would need to like have in place. You know, first getting grounded and feeling centered and processing through the stuff. But then, okay, what is the next step? What state is calling you? And that's where I would maybe want to bring in the medical astrology and cartography. And that's a helpful tool, but maybe not necessary for everybody. They might already have an idea. And like, how can we begin to make contacts so that, you know, there's kind of a bit of a support team when you arrive. And then from there, you know, how maybe an individual in a particular community or town or city can begin to create a pod or something similar, like where we branch out all over the world as a networking team. I'm kind of going to go off if I don't stop right there. But
hey, it's manifest. You're putting it out there.
I know, so the visions are all there, and it's just like, okay. And it is starting to manifest, so that's hopeful.
I'm just not surprised you brought up Montana, because there's some draw to Montana too, I feel. It's such beautiful state.
We had a really mild winter too when I first came here, and I had grown up, you know, in the Adirondacks. Well, not like in my early years, but I went to school in the Adirondacks, and I was used to really harsh winters. And then I got very Californianized in Southwest, New Mexico, you know, all. And now I'm back like in the snowy region. And yeah, when I first came here, it really hit me hard, like the harsh winters here. But now it's just like, this has been a really mild winter. Montana's beautiful. We have a cool governor, and I think it would be a really great place to have a retreat center to help people transition. So
cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that retreat centers are going to be vitally important over the next, let's say, few years, especially for those souls who didn't have the luxury that we've had being awakened for as many years as all three of us collectively have. You know, when I always say, I'm so glad to be on this side of it, because we've had the pleasure of going down those really big rabbit holes and then walking away for a month and regrouping. And then like, okay, now I can do it more. Where a lot of these people, I mean, they're going to come just boom and just be pounded with it. And there's going to be so much important healing work to be had, the retreats to be had. You know, I think that's why, you know, myself, just personally, I've been really called lately I'm taking 4 classes right now. I was doing a class right before this recording. And I think it's because I'm just trying to add so many tools in my toolbox, because they're going to be needed, you know, for us who have felt that call to be of service to others. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's.
Yeah. Are your clients chiming in a lot, Laura, you know, seeking help through these current days? Like, have they been waking up because of the current days? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, some of the new people that I mean, I don't do as many readings anymore, and I've had to kind of take a break, and I'm kind of in a transition myself as far as subscriptions and how to manage it all. And so it's been a little confusing for people, but I'm going to have some breakthroughs here soon. But yeah, there'll be new clients that are just like, I just, you know, started to wake up, or I was watching your videos and so-and-so's videos, or I've been following so-and-so and really starting to get it. And now, you know, and like you were saying, we've been able to work with this and process this, because, you know, it's like we live in the rabbit holes. I mean, we've gone down so many that and even just like it maybe being personally targeted for the information we put out. We know what it means to have that directed attention on trying to dismantle us or get in our way, to the point where we're in similar challenges that now we're seeing on a massive scale. This is affecting the whole planet. This is affecting countries. This is affecting every city that we can think of. And so I have like older clients that have been trying to do their real work in the world, or have done it on the side, or had careers as a doctor or a nurse or a teacher or this or that are like, man, you know, I can't continue with this. And it was a pretty immediate thing that they're not going to compromise. And then you got your new kind of awakening people who are like, wow, okay, there's no way that one can not awaken to the hypocrisy and the inconsistencies, that this isn't even about politics anymore. Although there are a lot of people that are still very immersed in that kind of game, and mind control, kind of social engineering. Mind control might be too strong of a word, but that is a form of mind control, and why the 5G and the you know what's and everything is all connected with it, and Mockingbird media and every attempt to groom us over the course of generations since 1947, especially to make us prime candidates to comply to this new world order. So I get kind of a mixed bag when it comes to people that come to me. And the ones that are kind of like newly awakened, that are just like, well, I just have to do it because I can't lose my job. And they haven't kind of processed it through to the degree that people like us have, like for many, many years. So and that's tough. And that's what's kind of feeding and inspiring these visions, because it's like, okay, how can we take care of, this wide spectrum of individuals, those who have been awakened for a while that are going to lose their career, those that have removed themselves from the matrix, that are being deplatformed and censored and losing their income because they're being shut down, and then those that are newly awakened. So wow, that's like 3 categories right there. And I know there's a lot more. And the Starseeds, like your show title, like with these young generations that are being so impacted.
Yeah. You just read my mind there. Yeah, I was just thinking about these waves of starseeds coming in, and how we can
need our support, because there are leaders and guides. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say it's with these starseed children. I kind of always go back and forth, because there's arguments on both sides where, I've heard the argument of, if you know that the schools are corrupted and what they're doing, that you need to, pull them out, and it's best to be homeschooling them or putting them in learning pods. And then I've also heard the argument that, well, no, they came here to be really bright lights, so they should stay in those those institutions. Let's call them institutions, because that's what they are, prisons. And because they're supposed to be bringing the light into that area. And yeah. So, they're both strong arguments on both sides. And, and I pulled my kids out, and I've also, had a lot of people say that I did the wrong thing, that if my kids were starseeds, then they should.
This is the problem. Oh, sorry.
You're fine.
Jump in. But this is what people have to consider. It's not a one size fits all deal. There's not one right or wrong move. And I think that lack of flexibility in people makes it really difficult, because then you're dealing with projections and people that have really strong opinions. And it's like, it's like when you're a new mother and somebody's telling you not in a loving way, but in a critical way, like what you might be doing wrong by your children. It's just like, you know what? I'm not going to drop a bunch of F-bombs in this show, but it's just like, and sometimes it's like useful. It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's coming from somebody who's raised kids, and they just had this really great idea, and they're just shedding wisdom and light. And it's like, awesome. Well, thank you so much for that. I'm going to sit with that. And so, we got to be very careful of how we communicate with each other. And I think with Starseeds, it's a mixed bag. For some, yeah, it makes sense for them to stay in these institutions to be able to activate those around them who otherwise wouldn't have that resource or connection point, because of all the indoctrination stuff and just all the weapons and the masking and all the things that really shut a person down. It's very important to have the Starseeds be there in those situations. And I think that's why a lot of us were in those situations too when we were kids as Starseeds. Like, why am I here? Like, my vibration is totally different. And I'm going to skip school and figure out how to still graduate. And I'm not buying into any of this, but and I saw the value of being there, but I also had to heal from all the stigmas of Laura's crazy and all the, she has learning disabilities. It's like, whatever. And then there's going to be some that may be so empathic and so sensitive that they really need to be pulled out. They really need the nurturing space of being homeschooled and be at home. And that's why I appreciate astrology so much, because it really helps us to see what kind of individual are we dealing with here. When we need those moments of clarity, even though our intuition will give us those pieces and chunks, it's nice to though have something to refer to when all the noise and craziness of what's going on and what's coming at us makes it hard to think. Yeah. That's why I appreciate astrology. And over the course of time, I'm like, man, I'm so glad that I learned how to do this. I never set out to be some astrologer or to do readings. I learned it for my own ability to raise my own kids and figure out myself and figure out the journey. And then it's like, then through word of mouth and doing it for friends, it just ended up becoming that I became more of a reader for people.
As a mom, when your twins were young, were you already tapping into your galactics and guides, or were you really on your own struggling to find, where to get your information from? Were you already trusting in
Well, that is definitely a mixed bag. I mean, I was very aware of this greater mission since I was a child, because there were so many catalyzing things, like, how in the heck did I end up in this family, first off, and just observing things as a child, definitely the black sheep. And then, understanding as well these deeper layers that happened in the Eisenhower administration that nobody talked about. So I was always really like working a lot of energy and connection with that. And the targeting to take me off planet in 2006 was a huge part of it. But I started to study the I Ching and Tarot and astrology like in high school, and like really started to develop it later. So when I ended up having the kids, which was spontaneous, sort of like, whoa, unexpected blessing, beautiful blessing, it really cranked up a lot of that survival energy, and a lot of the stability that might have been there from family wasn't there, because that's too long of a story, but I mean, I got help when I needed it in emergency situations. My mom would help me, like maybe pay a bill or this and that, but there's no trust funds. People think, oh, you're an Eisenhower, you must be like really well off. No, we don't have trust funds. Everybody works real hard. He didn't kind of like sell out or become one of those kind. Mm-hmm. So I really had to think on my toes, had a very unstable partnership. And so I would call in, these tools. I mean, I've probably gone through about 30 or 40 Mother Peace Tarot decks. I can't believe I don't have one by my side, because I have about 3 of them floating right now. But the Mother Peace Tarot, I started to use in my early 20s, not 1920s. I'm not that old. I do feel like a ghost though, with flesh. But I started to work with the Mother Peace and a lot of other decks. And the I Ching helped me, for a while, to the point where I memorized the book and I stopped using it because I didn't really need it so much anymore. But the Mother Peace, which I give readings for people on, I mean, I can't even begin to tell people, like, that was my go-to when I was freaking out, when I was kind of in survival, or like, oh my God, I'm totally screwed, or like, I don't know how I'm going to like function. Just work with the cards. And it, really sort of helped. As far as guides, I'm not like a contactee. I don't really have anybody I talk to or refer to. And I think my guides are scared of me, or I've pissed them off. I'm like, where are you guys? But I know they're there, and like, they show me signs. And sometimes I'm like, why isn't there more like a visceral kind of communication? And especially like with Eisenhower connected to Val Thor and all these ET races, it's like, can we just like have a conversation? Can you guys take me up on the ship? Like, and then I get the message like, well, it's almost too much right now. And it's better that you just like really cultivate your inner light of wisdom, and like, and know that you have yourself to fall back on, but we're here. Don't doubt that. But it's been very kind of hard at times to feel that connection. But at other times, like, it's so obvious and it's glaring in my face that they're right there, because some sort of miracle or synchronicity will transpire that is connected to a hidden language. Like, too many examples, and I don't want to keep rambling on, but and a lot of it played into like the music I was listening to, even though there's a lot of corruption in the music industry. A lot of the lyrics of music and a lot of the bands that I followed, and just music in general, that was my sanity. And that's what really got me through as well. I hope that kind of answers your question.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I firmly believe that all music is channeled through. I just really do. It comes, especially the songs when they're hitting you right in the heart, and they increase the vibration, I just
totally
channeled.
Yeah. I know, it's incredible. Yeah. And so just going to different shows along the way, and a lot of people that were going to the same shows as me were kind of living on the road too. And and for a while, maybe I'd travel with people, but then I'm very much a loner. I wouldn't, and still to this day, I just love making connections, just more as a sovereign person than kind of being in a group. And that's just me. It's nothing wrong with it, and unless there's some false guru or cultish like negative stuff that goes along with it, which sometimes is a hidden underbelly that not everybody participates in. Right. But yeah, it was interesting. I went to my first rainbow gathering when I was like 16. Lots of dead shows, and I wouldn't say like that was the end all be all band for me though. Like lots of other synchronicities with other bands like Jethro Tull and King Crimson and Adrian Blue, and it was just like literally that kept me going. And I realized a lot of people that were living similar lifestyles, maybe not with like juggling 2 babies without, but it was just like, oh, thank God. And then one of their songs, would come on, like when I'm just like, I'm going to die. Like we're lucky if we even wake up alive tomorrow. Like out of the blue, like you walk into the store and your favorite song that you just saw in a show like a couple months ago that speaks volumes to everything that you're going through just plays on the radio, and you're just going around the grocery store just like, fuck yes. Oh, I just dropped a bomb. But
no, it's fine. I love that when music speaks to you. That's really
so that was really that was the currency I kind of ran on. And then sometimes it was like, and I'm not able to do this, well, maybe I can, I don't know, but when I like really needed it most, I mean, sometimes I just find $20 just out of nowhere, just like in the grass, just like, wow. So this really taught me a lot about synchronicity and frequency. Like in these times, are we going to drop into survival where our energetic is really attracting more discomfort, more predators, and where we only see things that reinforce our anxiety and fears? Or are we able to hold a vibration and frequency that allows us to see the synchronicities and miracles that are right under our noses at all times? And so I really learned a lot about that, especially in my wilderness courses, being trained to be a wilderness expedition leader. Everything was about vibration, and noticing that with people, that like our whole reality can change with just a small shift of perception.
That's so true. It really is true. How we perceive things is ultimately our reality. Yeah.
Like, am I a victim? Am I like a failure? Or am I exactly where I need to be and I'm abundant and I like trust something? And it really opens up the beauty. It helps us to exist on a different dimension than this matrix 3D, as we know, siphoning vampiric system that's trying to take advantage of our hopes and our fears and our dreams.
Yeah. It's in terms of the synchronicities, and I don't know about you, both of you ladies, the angel numbers for me for the past 3 weeks have been off the charts. I mean, every single time I look at the time, it's 144, 222, 122, and and just seeing all that, and in nature, and with you being a nature wilderness guide, I'm sure that's such a strong way that a lot of our guides are trying to get a hold of us and to give us those divine messages. And if the only thing that we have to do is just notice it, that's all.
Totally. And that's what's so wild, because just like the numbers, when we're just navigating just the human realm and just waking up in our homes and whatever we do in our daily world, it was so interesting in the wilderness because it's the same kind of thing. And I remember like having a lot more like poetic moments than I do now. Yeah. Like I've only written like a few poems where I'm like, wow, yeah, that really described where I was at. And like sometimes, we kind of hit a wall or there's too much going on. It's like, I'd love to just be creative all the time. It's just not possible, or at least creative in that kind of way. But I remember specifically when I was doing courses in Baja, which is like a huge peninsula. It's got as much wilderness as like Alaska. I mean, it's pretty wild, like traveling so much in Baja. But I remember when I had hiked out into the desert without any of the other, people on the trip or the instructors of the course. One time, I had to make sure I woke up on time to get back to, the boats and this and that. It was broken up into a bunch of different things with kayaks and boats and then hiking. But I remember this hummingbird, and I was like communicating, with Mother Earth or whatever. And what the hummingbird kind of represents. But that morning when I had to wake up, and there was a specific time, and we do have watches and stuff, and there was something kind of like off with my watch or something. It wasn't waterproof enough and it wasn't working, but a hummingbird woke me up. And so I wrote in the poem, hummingbirds waking me up in the morning. Oh my gosh. Hummingbirds waking me in the morning. I can't believe I can't remember, and I had the whole poem memorized, but hummingbirds waking me up in the morning. The breeze from their wings cools the soul fire burning. That's what it was.
Ooh, beautiful.
And yeah, and it was a really long poem, and I can't believe I just blanked out on it. It's like, okay, when you actually talk about it, you guys have those moments,
Always.
Always.
Yeah, people call them senior moments, and I'm like, I don't want to think that like I'm already there. I call it multi-dementia, where ADD, attention on different dimensions, like we're all over the place.
Multi-dementia. I'm gonna write that down. That's good. Oh, yep, that's me.
Yeah, yep. There was for a while there. I was talking to my kids because I was so forgetful with everything. And I said, it feels like my brain is running on almost 3 different types of computers right now. And I'm just trying to, because, we're all getting so bombarded with downloads, and we're awakening, and while on top of being radiated from everything in the sky. I mean, they are literally putting everything at us right now. And yeah, I said, just give me a minute. I don't know which computer system I'm operating on right now.
I know. It's nuts.
I forget to close all my tabs. I'm open all the time.
I know. I see on my computer too. It's just like so many tabs, and even my desktop. It's like there's like things like layered upon each other, and it's always saying it's too full. You got to remove some stuff. I'm like, I don't know what to remove. I don't want to lose certain things. It's like, but I'm not like, I don't have the hoarder kind of mentality. But it's like, certain interviews that I don't want to lose, or should I delete this or whatever. But no, it's really difficult, but this is where it comes down to right now when we look at like 5D or the whole concept of ascension or the override frequency. Yeah. To me, this is how we're going to neutralize and de-weaponize the weapons. When we look at the weapons and stare them in the face and say, I can look at you as a tool for my higher growth, instead of like the fear response, when we see chemtrails or the 5G towers, it's like, thanks for reminding me that our frequency is higher and we can neutralize all these weapons by not getting locked into the mind control. Because if it was enough to blast us with weapons, they wouldn't bother with the indoctrination or the manipulation of how we relate to the masculine and feminine in our world and society. They wouldn't bother with fake news and the entertainment industries that are constantly blasting us subliminal messages and harmonics that feed into ancestral patterns and mind control and social engineering agendas that are passed down multi-generationally. So despite all these weapons, I know that we are getting to a place where we are going to be able to nullify and neutralize these weapons as we begin to switch on dormant DNA. And I always like to say, like, we can nullify the mark of the beast and even help those that might be very affected by these weapons, whether because of the mind control or they have sensitivities to these things and they're fully awake. We can nullify this mark of the beast. And it comes down to also a lot that is proven in looking at what's happening on a planetary alignment level, like the Venus transits. It's creating the corrections, like the Sophionic correction is literally turning the inverted pentagram upright again, which helps us to connect with the ether. And the 13th sign, which started to, the sun started to move through it in 2010, it's ruled by the ether, and it's connected to the unconditional love of the mother energy coming through, and how that's grounded in the earth core sun as a diamond heart that is impacting the planetary grid network. And there's been a lot of starseed missions that have done a lot of grid work as well to assist in this. And so we're going to gain the upper hand here, but this is a very gnarly window period where it's extremely uncomfortable. I've not been doing very well with the energies at all. And I show up in a lot of interviews where people are like, yeah, something's not right with Laura. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, sorry. I'm like not handling it so well sometimes, but what about you guys?
I think we could say the same. Yeah, I was having a rough day too.
Oh yeah. It's so funny. There was one particular day I was just really feeling it. And I started doing Pilates classes with my oldest daughter. And before I went, I just hopped in the shower, and just out of nowhere, I just started bawling. And even part of the bawling, it was like I felt the collective greed of humanity. It just came in this wave, and it was, I don't want to be here anymore, and I want to go home. And and then it just came out of nowhere. So I'm in the car driving to the class, and I shared with my daughter, I said, I just got done bawling for 10 minutes, and it just came out of nowhere. And she looked at me, and her jaw dropped, and she said, while you were taking your shower, I went up to my room and I cried.
Oh.
And she said, Mom, it came out of nowhere too. So many of us, we're all tapping into just this release, this collective purge that's going on. And it's so, I would say to everybody, it's okay. Just let it flow. Just let it flow.
Yeah. Get it out. Yeah. Right before you popped on, Laura, too, I was telling Abby, because I had a frenzy day, and I woke up and my son and I were at it, and we fuel each other. So we were just below belt. And then I'm hearing down the neighborhood, the dogs are fighting, the neighborhood daycare, they're all screaming and fighting. We just woke up into war. Surprise, surprise. And it was just like, whoa. And my son is 8. And we had to like collectively be like foaming at the mouth at each other, going like, okay, we got to stop. Like we're just pulling it all this out of each other. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, why? What is happening? We had to bring it back to 1, basically.
Oh,
is there anything you do to get to ground yourself or bring yourself back to 1? Do you have like a telltale, like, okay, I just got to stand outside? Well, it's cold.
Oh, yeah. I used to have better disciplines, I guess you could call it. And that's really wild. I see pictures of your kids and they're so beautiful. And they're so, I mean, it's so awesome they have you as a mother because, you know, those with younger children, like, especially women like you know, you're going to be able to, you know, navigate it. And you're, I mean, it's just so awesome. When I first said in the interview, you know, where I feel for those that have young children, it's the ones that like are starting to wake up that haven't quite gotten it yet. But, you know, ones like you guys that already have, you know, these are incredible souls coming in right now. As far as me, I mean, I've been very challenged by my boys. Oh man. There have been times that were easier, but you know, they take turns. Like one would be like the easier one would like totally challenge me. So I couldn't really, but I think that's the case with anybody who has more than one child, let alone twins, but it just starts off from the get-go when they're newborns and they're not identical, but it's like, you know, one would be screaming and crying. The other one is just like, oh, you know, happy and playing. And then one time, you know, it's like one's about to put a coin in its mouth and like go down the stairs and tumble down the stairs and then you worry about the table corners and you're just like, oh, you know, like it's nuts being a parent. But yeah, I had to duke it out a lot, especially their teenage years. Like they went through a huge phase of just like battling me right and left. They didn't see me fully and completely, my greater intention and all that. Like I've survived to like take care of them and the whole Mars stuff and all this stuff. And so my moments, yeah, definitely nature, but like I'd have to like drive off in the car and play music and like literally scream and cry because there had to be a release of the pressure. And then I kind of joke like in the here and now with my family and my new husband, well, 5 years husband, you know, like still because of all that's going on in the world, it's like when the volcano's going to blow, I got to warn the villagers, like everybody stay away from mom. This is not going to look good today. You're not going to want to be around me. This is not going to look good. And I just have to like rage or this or that. A lot of times I can like channel it into writing or something creative. But I think the reason is especially difficult now, and it has been on and off raising kids, is maybe not getting enough physical exercise. But like when I was raising the kids, I did have the outlets of like going to shows and dancing, and I was a landscaper and I had the wilderness stuff that I used to do. And I knew how to kind of get in that flow or go for a hike. And in Montana, of course, you know, that's all available. But I'm not driving right now, and that's a long story. And it's not so easy to just jump on a trail. I've got this little stair thing over here, and sometimes I use it. I'm like, yes, I feel more successful when I like change a toilet roll and I do like even 15 of these things. I'm like, yeah, you got it. Like even earlier, I'm like, you know, I just do the most basic like human task, and I'm like, yo, you know, you're rocking it. Like, but I could like do something else like extraordinary and not like pat myself on the back and appreciate like, yo, that's pretty cool that you just, you know, help this person or did this or that. Long story, but yeah, I don't have anything right now. I mean, I focus a lot on nutrition. I have a lot of great supplements and I'm trying to find a balance. And you'd think with all the chill me out herbs that I take that I wouldn't be so amped right now, but I've got walls of herbs like ashwagandha, everything to calm me down. And look, I'm still like this, like, so that's I don't really have a helpful tip for anybody. Just don't give up and keep trying. Yeah. I got my packets of vitamins and zinc that I put in every glass of water. But like I'm supercharged or I'm super exhausted and I'm just in bed and I don't want to get out of bed and I might feel like that way for days. So my, I guess, way of coping is to love myself regardless, to not judge myself for the way I'm responding to things and to choose things that support me instead of the default of like self-destructive tendencies because I'm pissed and I'm sad and I want to maybe go back into, you know, substances or ways to escape. And that's kind of the challenge that I'm in. So I wouldn't say I have it fully figured out. I wish I did.
That's beautiful. That's good.
Yeah,
you survived the twins. You raised twins on your own.
Pretty much with partnerships coming and going that
sure.
Yeah,
now my current husband, it's like I couldn't ask more. It's a bit funny. I didn't meet him till after they were 18 and legal adults, but that's okay. What's that, Abby?
No, I was just gonna say, I talk with my kids and friends quite often lately. This is such a peculiar and interesting time, and it makes it even harder. What we're going through is because we all know that we're in the middle of a war, a genuine spiritual war, but nobody else knows it. At least during World War I and World War II, everybody knew there was a war going on. And so, there's so many layers going on right now. There's the spiritual war aspect. There is the literal war in regards to removing all of the dumbs and the lockdowns and the war of trying to bring in the new world order. And then there's also, the war of the chemtrails and everything affecting us, that all the solar flares hitting us every day and that nobody can talk about or understand. I was at a soccer game, and these doctors next to me were talking about how every single patient they had seen the day prior were all, had X, Y, and Z, and they didn't know what was going on. And so I turned to them, I said, it's called a solar flare, and we just got radiated by, an M class. It's, and so I'm explaining to them what's going on with the human body. And they said, and I said, no, it's really important. We all need to know about this. I go, you need to be bringing in more minerals, trace minerals. You need to be hydrating. We are all literally standing inside of a literal X-ray machine all day long. Yes, there you go. That's why you need that. So, and so the exhaustion that we feel, and then we have those really up days because we're going through another energy wave, but you can't talk about it to all the general public. They don't get it. So you have to just pretend it's not going on and still function in this. I got to pay my bills and I got to keep trucking and get the kids to school and get them to this and that. It's really hard. It's really hard.
It's hard. And with the work you do, Laura, you're connecting into the collective all the time. You've been doing this work for so long. No wonder you're going to get hit left and right with different energy waves. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, it is. And what you guys are talking about here, the what happened during the Second World War and how they were preparing citizens to side with like the Nazi regime or agenda versus the silencing of information, in the Jewish communities. That one documentary called this one mother a black crow. She was trying to warn everybody. She heard about what was happening in the camps. Nobody would listen to her. There's no way that they're taking people off into these camps on these boxcars or whatever you call it. There's just no way. So nobody believed her when she was trying to warn everybody. And I think people like us go through that, where we might have been at this for a while, but we're sounding the alarm. We're trying to warn people, but they're not paying attention. And so it depends like who they choose to groom, because they already have a particular portion of the population that they're not going to try and groom and educate, because they're considered the ones that are being targeted. So now we see it with those who are choosing not to go this route. Now it's not so much about them playing the card of this race dominant than this race. That card's not going to work, because we've already gone through that in history, even though they bring up things like Black Lives Matter and they want to bring up those traumas and those imprints so that they can socially engineer us even further. Now, like you said, this war and the psychological operations, the psyops part of it is so sneaky, because it has to do with like, do we have health sovereignty versus authority, which really is medical tyranny, that we should answer to. So the conquer and divide has morphed and changed, and it's hiding behind different labels. The Democrats or lefts, it used to be more progressive, like back in the 60s or 70s. I don't choose a party or a label, but I was like right there with like a lot about what we saw in the last administration and the sparking of the spirit of the patriots. Absolutely all about it. But it's so interesting to see the tactics that they're using now and how they're trying to groom our children, and that it's so hidden to people because it's like they've leveraged that fear of death. And I know that there was similar stuff going on in the Second World War, but it has morphed into something else where it isn't so obvious. We're not on the battleground like we saw, but at the same time, even though those wars were going on, there was those psyops happening so that they would walk around with a star to be like, all right, and they'd be in the ghettos, like in Poland, And then you'd have like, you know, the elitist mentality of all the people that were really believing in Hitler's vision, even though that got all complicated. And that's just so much to unwrap right there. But yeah, it's the same stuff. Project Paperclip and all these things that came over from the Nazi party, and the deeper part of it, which is the deep state cabal, Khazarian mafia, and how it owns the Zionists and the Nazis and everything that's all about world wars and divide and conquer. It's infiltrated us. So we see the grooming, but we also see that Trump is able to stop a lot of wars and make a lot of peace agreements. And here we are dealing with the Ukraine and Russia stuff and the borders being open. And it's just like, it is so hard to wake up every day with this unbelievable shitstorm. It's just like, that's why it's so wonderful to talk to you guys, because, oh.
Well, I mean, speaking of like, the Khazarian mafia, that's part of what the whole Ukraine operation is about. It's removing it.
Right. So there's the Rothschild banking connection there, and it seems like something really good is happening there. But with the Biden element to the mix, that psyop part of it, or not giving us the real news, is still what we're contending with. Because I think the real news is that these events that are taking place are much better, but they're still trying to generate the fear, just like they're doing with the virus, where it's not as deadly as we think, but it's the propaganda that comes through the news, which is the war we're battling now, which you're talking about, you know?
Totally. Like the movie Wag the Dog. Or like, you know how we had the past 2 years now of a blip that everybody's been either stuck at home or away from loved ones, so they're all on their screen. So everybody's naturally been more on screens than they've ever been before, even people that haven't normally. So now they're feeding it. They're just giving you all the titles, and it's like, whoa, we forgot to go talk to the local farmers and talk to the local school. We forgot to go out to our communities. It's just wars all around, wars on many layers, that's for sure.
I know. I know. And then my sort of default that I remember that kind of helps me is, you know, we win the war within. We have to break the ties. We have to cut the cords with the imposters. It's just like getting a divorce and recovering from a narcissistic relationship, and you're getting a divorce. You have to trust that there's greater true love, and that it's worth your while, even though there's a lot of manipulation, making you look like, you know, the crazy person, or you're all at fault. Like the narcissistic sort of mentality is the most psychologically abusive thing. And we're dealing with it on such a massive scale that we have to say, I do not consent. I do not want to be in relationship with this anymore. And I have to trust true love is going to come. And to me, the true love is our relationship with creation, this earth, the cosmos, multidimensional dimensions, and true source, 0-point unified field. And in these multidimensional layers, though, there are a lot of galactic wars. There's a lot of traumas and wounds. That's why it's very hard to face the gatekeepers when we're attempting to switch our DNA on, because we're going to be facing, you know, things like Maldek exploding, Tiamat exploding, the Orion Wars, the Lyran Wars, and it's not so easy to switch it on. And they've been able to create these fences and scramble our fire codes because they're leveraging our trauma. And they keep leveraging it because it creates the loose that they feed on. And it's just like, you know, I just, and I laugh at sort of like anger management classes, like you don't even know like you can't even believe it's like, you know what, there's something called divine rage. I'm owning my anger, but I'm going to be very careful how I run that anger so nobody gets hurt. But I am pissed.
Yeah.
Beyond
you have to get it out. You have to get it out. That's one thing my mom said. You got to get it out. Get in your pillow, do whatever. Just get it out. That was my son this morning. I'm like, take it outside, run some laps, get on the trampoline, get it out. But that's why what you're saying, that's why it's so important to be the solution. And I think just manifesting the ideas with the retreat and Montana in like a transition place, that's the co-creating new earth. That's what we need. We can all get stuck in the trauma and the news stories of it all, but what are we doing about it? And even just attempting to put a thought out there like that is huge. So we need more of that, please.
Yeah. I mean, and that really helps. It's just like, you know, if there's something that one is feeling frustrated with, this goes for everybody, that you feel needs to be done, maybe you're the person that's meant to do it, because we need to embody the solutions. How are we going to wake up in the morning and have any inspiration if we're just like constantly being bombarded with this? We have to be the visionaries that are saying, okay, there is a better way, and I'm willing to put my attention on it. And it's very hard to maintain some days where, you know, I lose that connection with, okay, well, this is all you're trying to build and create, because, you know, I might lose the support, or I might be dealing with major trolls. And I'm not talking your everyday troll, like real serious attacks. And it's just like, well, I don't want to put my attention on it as much as I don't want to overly put my attention onto the deep state dark agendas. I want to notice the beauty and abundance that's actually here and align my creative energies with that, while also calling out and exposing these abuses so that we don't shove it under the carpet. You know, it's like a child trying to tell their parent, you know, they might have been abused by a teacher or sexually molested. It's like, it's almost too much. It's like, oh, that'll create too much of a stir in the community. It's like, no, we need to be brave to face all that, but we also need to support each other's visions and have each other's back and create enough resources that we can pull together so that we can help people transition out of this BS.
Yep.
Vampiric parasitic system.
Yep. And, you know, a good way for us to all be working together is just like the secret space conference that you're going to be attending, because all of those voices you guys are showing up in unison to bring about this information in support of everyone, to bring this message forward. So, I mean, how was there a lot of work to bring all of those people into one gathering? Are you really looking forward to being in that space?
Well, I know, well, it's Tyler and Aaron from Journey to Truth.
Oh yeah.
Who pulled it together. And, you know, I've known them for a while, and like, you know, we've been supportive of each other. I've been interviewed by them, and I'm going to have them on February 25th to help to promote this. I can imagine it was challenging, especially getting people like Dan Cooper and Fritz. I should know his first name. I know he goes by two names, but like when I look at the people that are showing up, I'm in touch with Dan Cooper on a regular basis, the senior advisor to Earth Alliance, and Rebecca Rose is going to be there. I'm actually interviewing her on Monday. I've done about 3 with her. And I think it's Johan Fritz. I hope I'm not getting it wrong. I've sat on a Zoom call, and he's, you know, shared a lot, and I'm familiar with him. And there's a lot of people that I haven't really gotten to know, and I've never met. Oh no, I did meet Kate in person in Disclosure Con in Snowflake, Arizona, but you're going to be there. I haven't met you in person. And Heidi, you're obviously going to be there. I have met you in person. So it's just such a joy to reconnect with you both. Oh my goodness. And I know it takes a lot. And Tyler and Aaron from Journey to Truth, this is their first real conference that they've done. So, yeah, I'm going to help, you know, to promote it. And as much as I've sort of canceled events or showing up in person, because I easily get kicked off of airlines. I got kicked off of 2, not because I'm being belligerent and like angry, but it's just like, you're asking me to double mask. And then I'm like, kind of like, I wouldn't say red pilling, but I guess it is a form of it. Like everybody around me, and they're all agreeing, and then we're all like talking, they're getting pissed off, and they tell me to leave. And they're like, you can't fly on Alaska Airlines anymore, or this airline. And, you know, and then, you know, I might, whoops, hit the bar, whoops. And anyway, so flying hasn't gone so well for me lately, but I'm willing to fly. And, you know, I know that we create our own experience when we do that. And I've flown recently to Florida, and I had to deal with all that. And I can like sit and be well behaved, but I'm still got my, you know, this is how I meditate when I'm on the plane. And then I do my cards. They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know, just like trying to work the energy, make sure we're all, sorry, I didn't mean to ramble on, but I'm either going to drive there or fly, and I have a few more conferences, but I've had to definitely cancel a few, and some decided, you know, to do an online conference instead of meeting in person. But it seemed that they picked a really good date. Like by May, we should feel like we know what's going on, and that is okay.
And the location, it feels very grounding and safe, and, you know, it's not major metropolitan, but, you know, and like with Tyler and Aaron at the helm, I just know it's all just through the heart, for the heart, you know.
They are just so stellar, and it's just incredible. I'm so glad they're organizing this, and I love the people that they've chosen. And Jermaine, I mean, we're great buddies, and it's everybody who's going to be involved. And yeah, I think it's just going to be tremendous. And what is it, like 3 or 4 days? So it's not like a real quick thing where, because sometimes it's really hard to leave once you're there. I know like a SETI does that, and like some of the other places where it's just like, man, you know,
whirlwind.
It's a Monday to Friday. So yeah, I'm so excited. I'm excited to see Jermaine again in person. I just love his intensity and his energy and his authenticity. He brings it. Totally.
I think last time, I don't know when the last time I saw you, Heidi, we met in person before, Abby.
We met in person at Disclosure Fest here in Ventura. I think I was volunteering.
Oh, okay, yeah. That was probably the hardest conference.
That was hard.
I was like at my worst. I just by myself done an event in Australia and then Hong Kong. I barely got out of Hong Kong because of all the protests. All the flights were being shut down. I was dealing with the craziest stuff. My sleep schedule was whacked. And they wanted me to re-record for a Cosmic Secret, for the documentary. And I tried to fly to Portland to re-record because when we recorded in Hawaii, they said the birds were like so loud that they couldn't actually hear. So we had to re-record, but I was so jet lagged. And that when I flew to Portland, it didn't go so well. I ended up losing, my phone got stolen, my credit card got stolen. I had to sleep on the streets of Portland for 2 days before Dimension of Disclosure. And and this pregnant woman who was homeless and in a tent, once she got to know me a little bit, and I was like trying to tell her, like, you know, I'm trying to do this and this is who I am, and I've lived on the streets before, you know, I mean, maybe a little bit more comfy, like with a, and anyway, she's like, I'm the one who stole your phone and credit card. She gave it back to me. And then like a week later, because she's like, I can't live with myself unless I give you back. I'm the one that stole that stuff. Oh, wow. Anyway, so that was all crazy. And then I went to Dimensions of Disclosure, and I'm supposed to do 2 talks, and all the weird stuff with Corey was going on.
There was so much. God bless
was at my worst. And people, you know, when I was on that panel, that last panel, people were like, something's not right with Laura. But this, I just want to say publicly, these are the reasons. I had severe jet lag. I had just been on the streets of Portland for 2 days. My husband, because I didn't have my phone or credit cards, couldn't reach me. So they had to call the cops and get like on the camera, like tracking, like where did she possibly go? Boy. And then when she finally gave me the phone back, then some dude gave me the charger. And then I messaged Kevin, my husband. I'm like, I'm here, I'm alive. And he's just like, whoa. So sorry to like, you know, say all that, but that's when I saw you, Ventura. That was almost a real breaking point with the things that have taken place with you know who. And I'm not
right.
You're the guy.
Well, that's what I want to say, to give yourself clear. You had a lot of trauma that you were going through, but there was so much other stuff, you know, behind the scenes. I know many speakers at that event before every lecture were like, okay, there's some dark energy so they were always clearing. So, you know, you were just you're a casualty of all that stuff, because you get psychic attacks all the time too.
I could have handled it different. And then, you know, kind of had a falling out with, you know, CG, and we tried to work it out. And then I just had to distance myself because something really, really bizarre happened with how they were kind of, you know, and we don't need to go into it. It could be for a whole other conversation, maybe like in private, because I'm very careful about
sure.
anything publicly. Matthew Mornian did do a series where he was interviewing people. But, you know, it's really when the lawsuits got out of control. Like, I can understand, like, if there's a major cyber bully and you're really being, but, you know, when it's like Cliff High, Adrian Youngblood, Roger Richards, and all these, Leon Kennedy, like all these. So anyway, I'll just leave it at that. But it was one of the most breakdown conferences of all time after doing a bunch of conferences. And, you know, after like Australia and Hong Kong, which my husband didn't join me for, I went by myself. You know, it's hard when people give you so much crap, but they don't really understand. They haven't walked in your shoes. They don't know what you just did or what you just went through. And there were a lot of people that were dedicated to the, you know who, that were so brutal. And I had a really hard time picking myself up and regenerating after that particular event. And I'm still in a lot of ways kind of recovering from it. So I didn't mean to share all that. No. And I was just talking about last time I saw you. Isn't that funny that I just go off on stuff? But
well, we had that to heal. You know?
I mean, anytime.
I'm so worried that you thought ill of me.
Stop. I'm from production, like motion picture is my world. So the behind the scenes is always fascinating. So I already saw kind of what was happening. And God bless Adrienne. She's a workhorse, and I can't wait to see her new documentary.
It's mind blowing.
I can't wait. Abby, you guys see that?
I'm so Abby, you were
and Roger, who I met there that weekend as well. These are professional. Then when I saw what was unprofessional happening behind the scenes, I already was on my I see how this narrative.
Oh, right. I know, totally. Oh, Adrian's top notch, and the documentary with Kathy is stunning. I watched it 3 times, stayed up till the sun came up like the other night. But Abby, you were gonna say something too.
Oh no, all I was gonna say, well, so with Kathy, I'm gonna say one thing. So I haven't flown this whole time, but I spoke at ESETI, and so I kind of joked with James, like, only for ESETI would I put a mask on to fly on the plane. But the whole time I was flying, I was reading Kathy O'Brien's Tranced, that book. So instead, I turned those plane rides into red pilling the person sitting next to me.
Right. Oh my gosh. Right. And like in any Uber ride too, it's just like sometimes
Anywhere. Yeah.
they're so profound. Like I've made the greatest connections, and even to the point where it's like, here's my number, like text me anytime. Then I'm like, who's that dude or chick from the airport that I'm like texting with because we had these profound moments, and all the stewardesses are just like, oh, you can't do that. It's like, well, we're wearing your fucking masks. What the fuck? Sorry, I know I'm in the F-bomb territory, and I got an interview in like 4 minutes, but thank you guys so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, real quick, since you have to go, what's the best way for everybody to get to find you, to get a hold of you?
Well, cosmicgaia.org. I pretty much have everything there. Make sure you scroll down the complete homepage. I had to learn how to do a website like real quick. So it's not like the best, but I have updated it recently, and you'll see the events that are happening. Mount Shasta is, I believe, in July. Then, of course, the Secret Space Program one in May that we've been talking about. And my Telegram channel, the Conscious Vitality platform that's censorship-free that I do is on there. And then also the ability to subscribe to Conscious, I'm like Cosmic Gaia, which I've had for a while. But it gets confusing when there's too many subscriptions. And I understand too, like, who wants to give their credit card and have to deal with something every month? So I'm going to work on like maneuvering myself to safer platforms. I already have a BitChute account, but I still got my YouTube, and most of it's on my website, to make a long story short that I made long, cosmicgaia.org.
Cosmicgaia.org. And you're still on social media. We still see you on Facebook.
I lost my original Facebook account. I lost all the groups and pages that I created, and all the pictures that I stupidly put there of my children. Yeah, and some of my old phones, like I can't retrieve some of those photos. I mean, I knew that there was like these platforms were compromised, but losing my initial Facebook channel was really like pretty brutal. And you know, we're all dealing with that kind of stuff. But I did create a new Facebook account, Laura Magdalene Eisenhower. I was like, let's throw in the middle name this time. Yeah, you can find me there. Cool. And I would love to turn this around and interview both of you and get to know you more and ask you guys a bunch of questions if you're up for it.
Oh, we'd love it.
Love to. Would absolutely love to. And thank you for your Telegram channel. It's so rich. Everything juicy. It's not usually like a spam every 5 seconds. It's like a juicy bit all the time. So
good. I'm careful of that, and like which videos I choose to share, and and then those late night like moments, and it's just, well, I do that a lot more on Facebook. I'm like, I think I'm gonna delete that. It's like, you know, it's not because I regret anything that I share, but it's like, you want to kind of keep up with the thread and answer to everybody, but it's like, no, I got to take care of all this other stuff.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, thank you for keeping it raw and real with us too.
Thank you. I mean, I love following you guys, and I love your spark, and I love your just everything about both of you, and I really appreciate you having this interview with me. It means so much.
Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you. And you holler anytime. We'll be ready.
All right, you as well. And then we're gonna do it the other way soon. I hope.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Bye.